Well, it looks like the real estate tide here in North Carolina is shifting. It's starting to change into more of a buyer favorable market. Maybe not completely, but we're definitely seeing a change here. The important thing to note though, is this a seasonal change because it's going into winter, or is this something more significant other than interest rates, obviously, that's changing the market for a long period of time? But be sure to stay to the very end, because I've got 3 ways as a buyer you're kind of getting the upper hand and can take advantage of this change in market that we're seeing. First, let's talk about seasonality. We all know that the real estate market ebbs and flows and ups and downs and everything else. But is this seasonality the reason why buyers are starting to smile a little bit here in North Carolina? Or is there something more to it? This ebb and flow of what we're seeing can also be sometimes called supply and demand. Every year during the peak part of the real estate season, you always see above the average home prices. And then also in the lower winter times, you see below average home prices. But is that what's happening now? Now, typically what we see anywhere from February, March to April, May, you typically see about a 34% increase in sales and about a 4% increase in prices. As the market gets hotter and hotter, well, so do home prices. The average number of sales during the peak seasons, let's say June, July, and August, is typically made up about 40% of all the transactions throughout that year, with June pretty much being right in the middle of the peak of the season. This is also typically why if I have a home seller that contacts me and they have a little time to play with and not really sure when they should list, I tell them this June and July period is really when you want to list to take advantage of the higher home prices and hopefully put more money in your pocket. Now, this also, you have to look at, do they have to buy later? But there's a lot of other factors that can go into that. Another reason why these home prices are up during this time, and also a good reason to sell, is because you have more buyers to pick from during this time most of the time. Therefore, you might get a bidding war and jack up the price even higher than what you had anticipated. Now, depending on where you're at in this state or any other state, it can also be seasonal depending on location, because some locations have what they call snowbirds come down and start purchasing even in the winter time. So it really varies a lot. But typically here in North Carolina, it goes pretty consistently as far as, when the temperatures start to cool, so does the real estate market. Now, the other thing that's really affecting buyers and our real estate market is obviously interest rates. We've seen massive fluctuations from what they were in a very short period of time. With the Federal Reserve hiking short-term interest rates from roughly 0 to 5.25%, it's really had a big impact on longer-term loans like mortgages. This has resulted in higher rates for potential home buyers, increasing the amount of monthly spend they're going to have to pay for a mortgage. Now, this increase in monthly spend because of higher interest rates has also pushed a lot of buyers out that used to qualify for $400,000 house. Maybe they qualify for a $300,000 house. But the problem comes in that those $300,000 houses aren't exactly what they're looking for, because now they're used to 2 months ago looking at the 400s. The other thing that the higher rates did was really affect our inventory. Not so much the amount of new construction and things like that, but these homeowners that have been sitting pretty at 3%, 4%, 2.5%, heck, I had one guy that was 1.5% interest rates. They would be crazy to, even if they really wanted to sell, they would be crazy to sell their house when they're going to be looking at a 7 or 8% interest rate now, coming up with, essentially you're buying the same price house with double the spend. And with less homeowners wanting to sell, our inventory is down, which is also still keeping home prices up because there's still a demand there. It isn't as much as there was when interest rates were, 3%, 3.5%, but people are still needing to move to the area and they just don't have a whole lot to pick from. Now, with all this being said, hear me out. There is an advantage to being a buyer in this market. Now, it might take a while, but with less buyers being on the market, that means home prices will have to come down. If they want to sell or need to sell, they're going to have to reduce their price to make it more affordable at some point in time. Also, with less buyer competition, this means that you as a buyer actually stand a chance at getting the home you want. Versus just a few months ago, you had to be putting $50,000 down and your firstborn child just to get an offer accepted. So which is it? Is this the proverbial housing bubble? Is this interest rates that are just pushing out buyers that can't afford it anymore? Or is this just your normal, everyday, every year, seasonal cooling off the market, and it's going to heat back up again come this spring and summer? Well, first of all, let me address the bubble. There isn't one. Everybody's been hoping for a bubble and hoping for a housing crash, which I don't think they really until what other things are going to be happening in the economy should that happen. Also, if you're sitting there waiting for this bubble to crash and you're renting at $1,500, $2,000 a month and you're worried about interest, what's your interest on your rent? Every payment you make per month, that's 100% interest. You're never going to see that back, and you're going towards someone else's mortgages. Yes, I know home prices have went up, but also so have your rents. If your home prices went up, it's because of the demand at those lower interest rates. Well, now with higher interest rates, eventually that's going to change, and you, if you're renting, need to be ready to pounce. Now, as far as the interest rate part of it goes, it's really been increasing, jumping all year. So with every jump, we've noticed kind of some buyer resistance, some buyer pullback. They've slowed down at every jump. And then a few weeks later, they're back looking again. Homes are selling quickly again. But now we've kind of got to that threshold, I guess, that people can't justify paying 8% interest rate on a house when they just saw 4 or 5, 3, a few months ago. And also the house that they're qualifying for now, because the higher interest rates, just isn't either what they want or what they need. And also it's just tough to find. If you're looking for, let's say, a 4-bedroom house, it's gonna be real tough to find anything that's in the, let's say, mid 200s when a few months ago you actually qualified for mid 300s. Now a lot of home buyers are just gonna have to save some more for down payment, either get some gift money from a relative or just wait till the market changes. As far as the seasonal part, we're not seeing a drastic change. So that's why I believe the seasonal portion of it is still simply seasonal. It's not a quick drop off. It's not a quick change that we've seen. I have noticed it drastically over the last month or two, month and a half. That's really changed a lot, but it's not dropping off. It's not a huge change. So I believe that seasonal is still just seasonal, and it's a combination of all these factors that's really wearing buyers down. But there are 3 ways that buyers can take advantage of this time right now, whether it be seasonal interest rates or whatever. It doesn't matter what's happening in the market. There's always sellers out there. There's always buyers. May not be as many, but they're out there. And right now what we're seeing is sellers are kind of getting nervous. So they saw their friend down the street sell his house a couple months ago in 2 or 3 days. And now their home has been on the market for 2 or 3 weeks. And they're kind of wondering what's happening. Did I time this wrong? What's going on? I don't have an offer yet. These nervous sellers are really giving buyers an advantage if they know how to take advantage of it. So for one, say you're looking at a house, the sellers might be more negotiable on price. If they've been sitting for 2 or 3 weeks at the same price, no offers, there's a good shot they might have a little flexibility there. Number 2 means that buyers actually have some time to think it over now in today's market. Doesn't mean that you have to run home and write an offer or write an offer in the car while you're driving home just to get an offer in on time before another offer is accepted and you see the home pending. So this is giving buyers some time to discuss it with their significant other or a parent or someone else that is this the right house with them? They don't have to rush into a house and perhaps make a mistake. And number 3, these sellers can be a little more forgiving. So again, house has been sitting on the market, already said price, but they also might be willing to give some seller concessions, help pay some of your closing costs. They could actually do some repairs where a few months ago, they didn't have to do any repairs. If they wanted to and they accept the right offer, they could just simply say no to anything on the home inspection, and either you could back out and lose your money or they could find another buyer, no worries. Now homes are actually having to be actively marketed, where a few months ago, agents were posting stuff online, taken with their blurry cell phone pictures and bad lighting, and it's embarrassing. I wouldn't even put my name on some of it. It was so bad, but they were still selling. And now you're having to actually find an agent that's going to actively market your property if you're a seller. So some of these homes still aren't showing the best because agents are kind of, phoning it in sometimes. This is where they're sitting on the market and you can take the advantage. If you're thinking about buying in North Carolina or selling, I'd love to talk to you more about the strategy going into buying or selling and see what we could do to help you. I appreciate you watching the video, and I look forward to you watching a couple of these videos too.